Welcome to our another episode of CodeSync. Till now, we created static screen for contact listing and create contact. Hereafter, we are going to create a new contacts by using the contact form, and that is going to be listing in the contact list screen. These are the two functional components what we created. One is for listing and one is for create component. First, we can go to list component. Here we have static data, right? We can remove this and we can make this as a dynamic data. Now we can go back to app.js and we can declare a state variable with the help of useState. Make sure that useState hook is imported from React library. Next, we are going to see one more hook, useEffect. This is the most important hook for this functional component. We can use this use effect in the different life cycle of the component. Let's see how we can use the use effect. And before that, don't forget to import the use effect from the React library. We can use this use effect in three phases. One is like a mounting phase. When we are using the use effect with an empty array dependency, that will be invoked at the time of component mounting. Next one is updating phase. In this, the component will be re-rendered due to changes in its props or state. By passing the dependency inside the array, that might be a state or props, we can capture the event. This behaves exactly similar to component did update in the class component. Next one is unmounting phase. This will invoke when the time of component is unmounting. This can be achieved by passing a return function inside the use effect with an empty array dependency. Here we are going to use only the mounting phase to update the state value of contact with the default value. We can pass the contact state into the contact list component as a props. Now we can go back to contact list component and we can get the props which is passed from the parent component. Here the context is an array. Here we are going to iterate the value with the help of map, and also we are going to return the rows with the different columns what we have in the below. Now the data is listed from the state contacts, and we can go back to the UI. We can see, but now it is an empty data because the state contact is an empty array. Now we can add some static data for now to test the list screen whether it able to map the value from the contacts or not. When the component is mounting, we can set the default value for the contact state, and we can go back to the browser and check the screen. Yeah, now we have two records which is in static data, but we can see the user 1 right, but we have user 1 user 2. That is because of we didn't map the value here. We can map the value from the key, name, email and mobile, and we can go back to browser. Here we can see that is reflected. We need to look on one more thing when we are doing listing with map. You can see the error, right? This is because of duplicate elements rendered when we are iterating. We can avoid this by using key props. This key helps to identify the unique element so that we can avoid this error. Now we are not seeing that error, right, after implementing the key in that list. Key should be unique, so I am using index value for that. Now listing works fine. Hereafter we are going to work on the create contact. Let's open the create contact component, and we can create some initial form data, and also we are going to create a state for form data. Here we are having three inputs, so I'm going to create an form data for three inputs that each will have value and error, and validation as well, but for now we are not going to more focus on the validation part, but we can add some basic validations. Hereafter we are going to create an function to capture the on change event of the input. From that we can get the value of the input and we can update it in the form data. We can add a few more props to the input so that we can easily identify the element. Now we are adding a name props. I'm going to have this name as same in the form data for all the three inputs like name and email and mobile, and then we can add an on change event to the input. This will capture the event when any changes in the input. Open the console so that any changes in the input, so that it will print all the event details in the console that we printed in the handle event function. Here we can see all the required inputs. Now we can try to capture the value that is typed inside the input. We can get the name and value from the target key of the event. Let's console name and value here, and we can go back to the browser and validate whether we are able to capture the name and value. Yeah, when we are typing in the input, right, we are able to capture the name and also value, correct? So we have the name as name and value as testing. Now we can save this data in the form data. We can update the captured value in the form data by using set form data. Just updating the value of the input which is triggered on change event, and now we can add the name and event in all the inputs. We can add a on click event in the create button, and we can console the form data to validate whether the values are updating or not. Seems like something is wrong. Not able to find form data. Yeah, there is some typo. That should be form data. Now we can go back to the browser and we can type all the input fields and click on create. Yeah, that will have the all the form data. You can see, right, all the values has been updated in the JSON. Next we can go back to app.js and we can create a function to update the form data into the contact state so that it will be reflecting in the list page screen. We can create a function with the name of handle submit. We can pass this function as a props inside the create contact component to get the data from the child component to the parent component. Here we can update the value in the contact state so that it will reflect in the list screen. Here we can retrieve the handle submit function from the props and we can add this function in the create on click function, and we can pass the form data as an input so that we can retrieve in the parent component and we can update in the contact state. We can get the updated form data in this variable data, and before updating this into the contact state, we can have some minor validations. Just we are going to check only that input is having the valid data or not. This function will return an object with the two keys. One is like the form is valid or not. Another one is like having the all the three values in that as an object in the key. We can use the validation function inside the handle submit that will return the two keys, and based on that is valid key. If that is true, we are going to push the values into the contact state so that it will reflect in the table. Here we can bind the value of current form and the existing data with the help of spread operator. Yeah, now we can go back to the browser and we can validate the flow. After providing the values in the inputs, we can click on the create. That should add the data in the table. Something is wrong, I guess. Can here we are able to retrieve the data, but the data is not pushing into the table. Let me check. Yeah, I think I found the problem here. This is false, but we provided all the valid information. So something wrong in this validation function. Yeah, I just added one more yes in this. Now it should work. Yes, it is added in the table. Now the create flow works fine. We can create a new contact with the help of the form, and if we click on the create, that will reflect in the contact list form. In the upcoming videos, we are going to implement edit and delete for the contacts, and also we are going to implement routings. For more videos, please do subscribe and like this video.